Hello everyone. I'm going to show you some basic editing things you can do in Photoshop. So next time you have a family photo, or if you go on a trip and you have some photos that you want to improve just a bit, these are some things that you can easily do that don't take very long. Photoshop can be quite intimidating because it has so many buttons, so many settings, and so many different things. But the ones we're going to use today are very easy to click and slide around. We're mainly going to focus on what's called adjustment layers. You should see this area on the right side of the screen. If you do not, you go to Window and you make sure you have Adjustments checkmarked. You can also find adjustment layers by going to the bottom of the layer panel, which is this panel on the right, and this half circle symbol. If you click that, you'll see the same names for the adjustment layers that live up here. So this is a flower that I took a picture of at a botanical garden on a vacation I was on. It's a little too dark for my likings. So how do I change a photo in Photoshop to improve that? So the first one we'll use is brightness and contrast. So I'm going to click this sun and it will pop up a little box here. And it has two bars that I can drag. The first one is brightness, the next one is contrast. The problem with this photo is mainly that I didn't have the right settings, so it turned out darker. So I want to increase the brightness. To increase anything on Photoshop, you move it to the right. To decrease something, you move it to the left. So I'm going to grab this little bar here, and I'm going to move it to the right. I can move it all the way to the right, which would be too bright. So I'm just going to move it a little bit over. You can also enter in a numerical value, but I normally don't know what numerical value I want, so I just kind of drag the bar. Contrast is going to increase the difference between elements in your photo. So if I move it to the right, it's going to be very dramatic. If I move it to the left, it's going to be a lot more subtle. In this case, I don't want it to be super dramatic. I want it to be a little bit more subtle. And after you play around with this for a little bit, you might not remember what your photo originally looked like. You're like, did I actually improve my photo, or did I not change a lot? This eyeball right here on the bottom, if I click that, I can preview what it looked like before I made these adjustments. So there's my photo before, and here's my photo after. I would say it's a lot more colorful, it's a lot easier to see, so I like what I did in this adjustment. I'm going to stop using this adjustment, so I'm going to close this little panel with this little X. If at some point in time I'm continuing to work on a photo and I go, man, I want to adjust this layer again, I want to adjust the brightness or contrast again, I just click that half circle shape and it will bring up the box, and I can then again adjust it for my liking. The next one we're going to take a look at is the vibrance adjustment layer. So it looks like a triangle. It has two settings in here, vibrance and saturation. Vibrance will intensify colors with a focus on muted colors, while saturation will focus on all the colors. So if I pick up vibrance, it's just picking up the muted flowers, but when I go really high, it's starting to get them pixelated. It's starting to get some wonky colors in there that I don't want. So I'm going to move this back to 0. Saturation is going to increase. If I decrease it all, it'll be black and white. Increase it all, it's going to be really colorful, but it's not nearly as pixelated as the vibrance one. I do think the saturation in this case works better, so I'm going to increase the saturation a bit, but not too much. Again, I can go down to this little eyeball and click it to see this was before, this is after. As you can see, the colors in the petals are popping more than they were before. I'm going to click this little X. The vibrance tool again. Last time we liked how saturation looked a lot better. So let's say I did saturation again and went all the way up. It makes the grass really pop. It makes the sky a little bit more bluer, but it also affected my skin tone. So now I look rather orange instead of, my normal skin tone. So I don't want to use saturation because it kind of messes up how I look in the photo. So this time I'm going to use vibrance, and remember, vibrance mainly affects muted colors. So it's going to affect part of the grass, it's going to affect some of these rocks, but it's not going to affect me as much. So now when I pump the vibrance up, I really get a nice color on this grass without turning me into an orange. So I'm going to preview it. Yep, it helped bring out some of that color even in some of my blue jeans. Like it a lot better. Done. Move to my next photo. This is a photo of my cat around Christmas time. But the main thing I want to do to this photo is I want to make it a black and white photo instead of a color photo. This square that has a white side and a black side is the black and white adjustment layer. and it's going to bring up a bunch of colors, but my photo is going to be black and white. What this is doing is you're telling it how strong to make that color either in the light side or the dark side. So if I click and drag, you'll see that anything red in this photo is being affected. So if I made it really bright, it's going to really blow up the Christmas lights, and I don't really want that. That's going to overshadow her face. So I'm just going to turn down the red a bit because I want these to not be so overpowering in the photo. And I can do that with each one. I can mess with each layer and figure out exactly where I want it. But maybe you know there's a color in here. For example, I know that this is a blue armchair, and I want to make the blue lighter, but I don't know which blue it is going to be in. I could use this little hand tool and click on the part of the image that I want to affect, and I can drag it. So in this case, it was in the blue section. It's going to affect anything in that photo that is belonging in that blue section. So if you watch this part around her leg and I do the same thing, you'll see that it's also affected. I want to make this chair lighter because I want it to be a contrast to my black cat. I know my carpet is purple, so let's mess around with the carpet a little bit. Lighter, darker. I think making it darker, again, helps contrast her body to the carpet. I can hit my little preview button. Before is my color, after is my black and white. But this is the best way to mess around with black and white settings with colored photos, so that you can make one color really stand out and one color, not. So I love using this black and white tool and Photoshop to make black and white images. Now there is a fun thing that you can do in Photoshop that requires a little bit more playing around than just sliding a couple bars back and forth. And it's under Filter, and it's under Filter Gallery. You want to be careful that if you click this while you have a layer selected that is not your main photo, it's not going to appear right. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. If I hit Filter Gallery right now, it comes up as like a blank white photo. That's obviously not right, so I'm going to hit cancel. You want to make sure to select the layer that is actually your photo layer. Filter Gallery, and this is going to have some fun effects. If your photo is larger, like this one, you're not going to fit it on the whole screen. It's going to automatically have it at 100%. If you click this drop down, you can hit full screen, fit on screen, or fit in view, and then you can see the whole photo better. So it's going to have a couple different settings that you can play with. There's ones that make it look like, cut out. There's plastic wrap. There's ones that turn it into black and white, distorting, brush strokes, a bunch of different things. One that I like is poster edges sometimes, and kind of makes it a little bold, maybe even makes it a little bit comic booky, but sometimes I think that's fun. And each time you pick one of these, there's going to be a set of settings specific to that one on the side that you can then play around with. So this is making the edge thickness rather large, rather intense. This is very extreme. I don't want that for my photo. I just want to kind of be there, but not to be overbearing. So I'm going to try to move it to 1. Now, maybe I like this, but maybe I want to even add more filters. You can add another filter on top of this filter. To do that, you click this little plus sign on the bottom right corner. It automatically adds another layer of artistic and filters that we're using. It's going to pick the same one that you were on last time. But if I click anything else, it's going to change to that one. So yeah, texture is a fun one. This one can make it look like it's on canvas or on brick. Again, it's going to have its own source of information here that you can edit. So here's a canvas one. I can change it to sandstone. This one's more of a beveled edge and less of a straight line. Burlap, really extreme. I like the sandstone one. I can really increase the scaling to really make it have that texture. I don't want it to have too much texture. I think it takes away from the photo, but I like having a little bit of a texture. Kind of looks like something that's fun to print. You can change how strong it is. Obviously, if you go really high, you're not really going to see your photo anymore. So this is one that you would keep relatively low. You can tell it what the direction of the light is coming from, and that will affect a little bit of how the texture is seen. And if I like how this looks, I'm going to hit OK on the top, We're going to come back to my photo. So this is my photo. It has a texture in it now. You can see a bit in the clouds. It has a poster edge, so it has some of that black definition outlining, and then it has my levels and vibrance. If you want to save your photo, you go to File, Save As. If I wanted to come back and edit this again, which if I spent a long time editing things, I almost always keep a Photoshop file just in case, and then I can pick the JPEG if I want to save it for social media or something.